The phone lines are jammed as thousands of people call in their best wishes to President Reagan. Yesterday, in a handwritten note, the former president disclosed that he has Alzheimer's disease. Calls are coming in from around the world, so many that Reagan's staff members have been unable to keep up with him. The Reagans spend most of their time secluded in their mansion in the Bel Air section of Los Angeles, although in recent months he has appeared occasionally in public. Alzheimer's is not just a loss of memory, it's much more than that. It's a disease that can completely change the personality of the Alzheimer's patient. Each person who's affected has his own story to tell. Here's another one. President Reagan is revered by many as an American hero, and his announcement has touched the nation. But this man is also a hero. He too has Alzheimer's. His name is Ed. He sits in a Colorado nursing home wondering about all those strange people and strange noises around him. His confusion is profound. It wasn't always this way. 50 years ago, Ed was a war hero, leading a tank battalion into enemy territory deep inside Germany. A German bazooka shell exploded in his face. After 6 days as a critically wounded prisoner of war, his almost lifeless body was turned over by his German captors to American Red Cross workers. Slowly, over a period of many years, Ed recovered and resumed his military career. The Purple Heart and Bronze Star were always locked away where his 3 sons couldn't see them. He never told his boys about the real pain of war. They grew up not quite understanding the battles past and the battles yet to come. They learned of their father's real anguish by reading the tattered medical documents from the wartime years. On January 5th, 1984, Rocky Mountain News columnist John Coit did a story about this war hero named Ed. The column talked about the senselessness of human conflict. Even then, 10 years ago, strange things were beginning to happen to the neurons, the cells inside Ed's brain. The neurons tangled into clusters of cells that touched and short-circuited. They began to rob his mind of its ability to reason and communicate and remember. Ed became more confused, more frustrated. He was always a gentle man, never raising his hand against his 3 boys. But now in the nursing home, as the Alzheimer's progresses, his confusion sometimes changes to violence as he strikes out at the nurses who care for him. The chest restraints are monuments of frustration, but they keep him from wandering and hurting himself as he waits for death to end his suffering. Still, in his confusion and inability to communicate, he's a beautiful human being, a good father. Ed, his full name is Edward Lucas. He's my father. And if he were capable of telling our former president what happens when the body surrenders to the ravages of Alzheimer's, perhaps he would say, "I've been to that battlefield. I understand." Tens of thousands of Colorado residents will identify with this next story. It's about Alzheimer's, such a strange disease. It's no respecter of the golden years, and Alzheimer's took away the dignity of a man named Ed. They called him the Colonel in the years after the war. He was always Colonel Ed, the war hero, the lion, the man who sacrificed his body and his health on some nameless battlefield 9,000 miles away. Prisoner of war, massive head injuries, years of rehabilitation. But despite his disabilities, Ed did his best over the years to hold his family together. The wounds healed, the scars did not. Many times while they were growing up, his 3 sons asked him to tell them stories about the war years. He never did. He liked to tell stories, but not those. Instead, he told them stories of friendship and boyhood, and of chasing squirrels in the Virginia woods. He told of parents and brothers and sisters, and the pony they owned when they were young. Ed was always quietly confident, in control, in charge. He was born to lead and did it well. But that's the irony of Ed's life. 5 years ago, at the onset of Alzheimer's, that strange disease, the first thing that went was Ed's control, his authority. All of a sudden, people ran his life, told him where to go, what to do, where to sit, when to eat. In the nursing home, even the gentlest hands terrified him. He fought back sometimes, perhaps still waging that war from 5 decades ago. Always there were the flashbacks, the night terrors. Alzheimer's, such a strange disease when it strikes your father. The strongest man in the world, impossibly weak. To ease his loneliness and isolation, his family gave him a big stuffed toy lion with a silly grin on its face. He hugged it and cuddled it. He couldn't explain why he loved that lion. Alzheimer's took away his ability to articulate. Perhaps it reminded him of an old German shepherd he loved not so many years ago. On the loneliest days in the nursing home, when family members were late, that lion was his companion, always nearby. Now that Ed's spirit has been lifted into the willing arms of God, the ones he left behind think a lot about the imponderables, the things he taught them, the joy of life, the magic of love, the complexity of time, the certainty of God. And they think, too, about that toy lion as it now sits alone on the dresser. Some may say that Ed lost his battle with Alzheimer's, but that's not right, exactly. He didn't lose, he won. And his 3 sons, Matt, Greg, and Ward, we salute him. We salute your victory, Dad.